Hi, I'm Jessie Heron, host of Rediscover Your Story, a podcast for marketers who need a break from everyday learning, but still want to hear from like-minded professionals on all things creative. Today we have this amazing episode where we're going to learn all about organizing from Lisa Woodruff. I mean, who needs all these papers anyway in our lives, right? She's going to talk to us about what it was like to start her own business and then how we can all get organized in our home with processes. Quick call out, make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you want to see our beautiful faces and get more content from Resolve, you can watch this podcast on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click the bell to be notified whenever new episodes drop. Let's rediscover organization and let's rediscover her story. Lisa, welcome. Welcome to the Rediscover Your Story podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I know. It's so great. So we were talking off camera, but we have a mutual person in our life that we both adore and just love, and that would be Deba. And Deba was gracious enough to, actually, she almost like attacked me, I will say.
Go, Deba.
Yeah, it was at a social media conference. Like it's kind of one that we have here locally in Cincinnati. And she came up to me and she was like, Jessie, I need you to hear me out on something that I'm doing. And I was like, okay, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm working with Lisa Woodruff and she's the owner and the founder of Organize 365. And I was like, okay. And she's like, and you are the prime person that we need to be utilizing one of our products, the Sunday basket. And I was like, great, sign me up. Let's do it. Let's figure this out. And then she was like, and Lisa needs to be on your podcast. So here we are.
Yeah. Thanks, Deba.
I know you're on the podcast. Here we are.
Yes.
So I just want to dive right into it.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking too, how we kind of probably crossed paths a million years ago when we were in our like major blogging, hype, that era that we had 10 or so years ago. But tell me, how did we get to Organize 365? How did you come up with the idea and kind of pull it all together?
Yes. I love that we were able to go back to our history like 15 years ago.
Yeah, probably 15.
Because this is what I find. I'm a 52-year-old woman now. And I like to say that all the time because I think that it takes a long time for women to go through a lot of seasons in order to get to the thing that they're uniquely created to do. Because, we have many, many seasons that we as women go through.
Yeah.
Sometimes marriage, sometimes children, careers, but also just lived experience. And by the time you hit that 40th year, at least for me, and when I talk to a lot of other women in reflection, they're like, oh yeah, that's true. Like the year when you turn 40, you kind of look back on the last 2 decades and you're like, what did I like about my 20s and 30s? What didn't I like? What changes do I want to make? Like women make a lot of changes in their 40s because we realize we're going to live to be 80, 90, 100. Like our parents, they didn't think they were going to live to be 100, but we know that, barring any unforeseen illness or accident, we have a great likelihood of living to be 100. So if you're 40 and you're overwhelmed and depressed and it's really hard to go on, you don't want to do that for 60 more years. And that's where I was. And so I had been a stay-at-home mom, loved that. I'd been a teacher, loved that, but it didn't work when I was parenting. I had done a lot of direct sales companies, loved that. I loved a lot of the things that I was doing, but I wasn't in control of any of them. I wasn't in control of my children. I wasn't in control of my parents getting divorced in my 30s. I wasn't in control of my dad getting ill and passing away and being the executor over his estate. And I felt like I was reacting all of the time. And I wanted to be more proactive and productive in my life. And so I sat down the year I was turning 40, and I realized that I had a unique historical heritage. I have a 4-year college degree, but I'm the 4th generation of female college graduates in my family, which is very rare.
Yeah.
And all of those women owned their own businesses, started and sold their own businesses.
That's also really rare.
Extremely rare. And so I only know entrepreneurship. Like the men were all salesmen and the women all started their businesses like on the side. And my husband was in industrial sales, inside sales, but he was not a business owner, salesman type. And that's all I'd been surrounded with my entire life. So I knew that I wanted to start a business, but I wanted it to be like a business that would actually provide for our family. And in the future, maybe employ our children was part of my dream and goal. And so it would be a business that would have employees. So what would I do? Like, what could I create was my question. Like with a preschool kindergarten degree from Miami University and some direct sales experience, like what kind of a business do you create? And back in 2012, there were some women, mostly women who were making good money, were working for corporations. And they had started right out of college. So, they had like 20 years under their belt. So
and they were doing the 9-to-5 thing.
Yeah. And I had not done that because my whole dream was to be a mom, a stay-at-home mom. And I was one. But then the kids were getting older. And I was like, I want a new dream. And I guess growing up, it was like, women were able to choose stay-at-home mom or working. Like we were allowed to have the choice. It wasn't like you could have both in my generation.
Right.
You chose. So I chose stay-at-home mom, but I didn't realize that when you were 40, like they would be in middle school and you would be living another 60 years. Like, do I get to choose again? And then you got to rewrite your marriage because they're like, no, you're going to be the stay-at-home mom. I'm like, the kids are kind of growing.
Right.
So,
I have more time and more things to give in my life. Yeah.
And I was at a really, the bottom of the pit of despair. I like to say, like the 7-year slide into the pit of despair. Like my parents were now divorced. My father had gone. Our family was ruptured. Like all the family holidays were a mess. Our kids had a lot of medical diagnoses. We were in the worst debt we'd ever been in. I was depressed. I was on antidepressants. I was the heaviest I had ever been. Our house was a mess. And I was like, really? You're going to start something from this? And then I quit my job because I needed to be home for my kids. And my husband was like, you better find a direct sales company to do. You better find a job pronto because we were in so much debt. Now, here's the thing. I was 40. Here's the awesome thing about being 40 in 2012. We had great credit. Because my husband had been working, you underestimate that. But we'd also lived in our house for 15 years.
Right.
So our mortgage was set. We had great credit. I don't mind using credit cards. So we were racking up the debt, but I knew eventually I'd be able to pay it off. So I asked myself some strategic questions. And I said, if you're going to do this, if you're going to go after your own dream of building your own business, not building somebody else's direct sales business or going to work for someone else, what can you do where you will be consistent and not change your mind on what you want to do going forward? Because I had been in 23 direct sales businesses and a leader in 5. So it's not like I don't know how to sell.
Right. And then so you're asking yourself these strategic questions. Are you doing this like after the kids go to bed? Are you doing this, just kind of sitting in quiet by yourself? Are you doodling on napkins? Are you drinking? Like, what's the state of mind here, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm really diving into this because I think women today are trying to figure out what they want and they don't know what they want. So I'll talk about Organized 365, but it's more important to me that women figure out what they want and have time. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
I quit my job, a teaching job, the day before winter break. I slid my resignation under the locked headmaster's door and went down and told my co-teacher. She tried to talk me out of it. And I said no, because I was not being the mom or wife or homeowner that I wanted to be. I was only being the best teacher I could be. And my headmaster had told me that she didn't think I was a very good teacher. And I was like, well, if I'm not meeting your expectation, and I already know that I'm not meeting my own expectation in every other area of my life, then this has to go, even though I need the income, because I need to figure out how to be a good wife, mother, and household manager, because my kids only have me as their mother.
Yeah.
And so I had plenty of time because I quit my job. So I worked the first couple of weeks in January because they were trying to replace me. And then I kept working because they hadn't replaced me. And I finally said, I will not be coming tomorrow. So you've got to figure out how to replace me. And I just stopped showing up. Like that was the only way to actually quit.
Yeah.
So now I'm sitting at my kitchen table. First thing I did is I went to the grocery store and I filled 2 carts because I was like, we need so much food. Like we need supplies. Remember, I have no money, right? So I'm putting this on a credit card. I'm sweating. I come home, unloading all the groceries. All the cabinets are full. The refrigerator's full. Like the house is a mess. I have no place to put all this stuff I couldn't afford to buy to begin with.
And then you're overwhelmed at this point.
Yes, because I'm trying to solve my current problem with my past habits. And I don't know that I'm in a new phase of life. I don't know what to do. And so I sit down at the kitchen table. Now there's like food everywhere on the floor. And I'm like, how? What am I doing? How am I going to do this? I made a list, a legal pad list of every single space in the house that needed to be organized. And then I made another list of everything I had done to earn money in the last 20 years. And I've cleaned houses, I've organized, I've spoken, I've written books. I'd done a whole bunch of things. And I looked at that list and I was like, what is the one through line? Like, what is the one thing that is uniform to all of these? And it was organization. Like even the teaching job I had just quit, I was hired because they wanted me to organize the classroom teacher I was a co-teacher with, which I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's organizing. I was like, can I talk about organizing for the rest of my life? And I was like, yes. No idea how to monetize it. No idea what to do. I'd had another blog that I'd closed down. I was like, okay, I'll start a blog. I know a little bit about SEO. I'll name it Organize 365 because I'll be able to talk about organization for 365 days a year for the rest of my life. And I just started typing.
Okay, so this was 2012.
January of 2012.
Wow.
Yeah. And I joined a direct sales company that sold organization products. So I'm like in March and I've had these huge parties. So if you've ever been to like a Mary Kay Tupperware type party. I mean,
girl, I sold Silpada.
Oh, Silpada.
Silpada.
Oh, that was gorgeous jewelry. Oh.
Yes, but you had to carry all your products with you.
Right. So I had no problem with that. But when you go to those parties, there's like 5, 10, maybe people there.
Yeah.
And most people are there for the appetizers and the socializing and they buy, like the cheapest thing they can.
Yes.
So I'm representing this direct sales. It was called Clever Container Company.
Okay.
And there are 20 to 25 people at each party I do. I have never in my life, and I've done a lot of direct sales, seen so many people come out to parties.
Yeah.
And I did my third party back in my hometown for a high school friend. And I thought, this will be all my high school friends. It'll be like a reunion. I knew no one there. I was like, Maria, why are there 25? Who are these people? Why are they here? And she goes, well, Lisa, everyone wants to know what a professional organizer has to say. And I was like, I'm a professional organizer? And she goes, yes. So then I Googled professional organizer. I didn't even know what one was. So sometimes when you are going to do what you're uniquely gifted and created to do, you just have to take the first step. And as you go, it will evolve. And that's what I've been doing. Like I am committed to Organize 365 until I turn 80. It's a 40-year career. I mean, Martha Stewart's 81. So maybe I should increase that to 81.
Yeah, you could totally do it.
Yeah, which is why I'm going back and getting my PhD now. Because I'm just taking the next step, the next step, the next step. When you continue to look at your uniqueness long enough, you will discover things people have never discovered because they've never given it enough time.
I love that. I also love the idea of you kind of hanging out with Snoop Dogg in my head. Like who's going to be like who's the next Snoop Dogg that can be hanging out with Lisa? Sure. Like he hangs out with Martha. But I think people who, especially women, I do know that there's some women who listen to this podcast and I can only imagine that they're thinking, okay, that was 2012. You figured out what at the time you figured out, okay, I think I can do this. I can do this all the time. I want to do this until I'm 80 or 81, like Martha. What were the next steps? I mean, you did the parties, but how did you know that like this was the thing and you could do it all on your own?
Yes. So I tried to build Organize 365 as a personal brand alongside of my direct sales brand in Clever Container. That's what I had done in Creative Memories. I was a leader in that company and some other ones. And I taught a lot of people in direct sales in, the early 2000s, how to not just rely on your direct sales company as the brand you're representing, but also make yourself a brand inside of your direct sales company. The other thing I did in that first year was as soon as I realized I was a professional organizer, and I had organized people for pay.
Googled.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I check all those boxes. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I added on a service line. And most people, when they start their own company, if you go backwards, you realize, oh yeah, I did trade my time for dollars. And I did perfect my craft through a service before I was able to make it an e-commerce business.
Got it.
Like if you want to get passive income, doesn't exist, by the way, or start an e-commerce brand or build something that will scale or people can do with you. First, you have to do it. Yeah. You have to do it so you know all of the roles and then hire for the roles and then move yourself out of the roles. And that took me 6 years. I organized the first year and then hired somebody to work with me and we did it together for the first 3 years. And then the second set of 3 years, there was a team that organized for me and I started my podcast. So I slowly started to grow the brand over time. But in the beginning, you just need to make money in order to give yourself the time to figure out what your unique spin is on whatever is drawing you in. So there are organization companies out there.
Right.
Most of them do either rainbow organizing. We know the one. It is very aspirational and fun and let's all rainbow everything. But yeah, that's selling organization as an aesthetic. I'm not a designer, so I'm not good at that. The other way in which organization is typically done is like Marie Kondo, decluttering.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of decluttering experts. I mean, decluttering step one, but I'm really a teacher and I'm the organizing. So decluttering is first and the aesthetic is last, but in the middle is that organizing piece. And that organizing piece hasn't really ever fully been developed because we jump from decluttering to we want it to look pretty. And the organizing piece takes about 3 years.
Okay, I want to pause right here because I will tell you that I definitely fall into that mode as a mom who's 42, who has a full-time working career, but also wants to be the full-time mom where I'm trying to volunteer and be at all the things. And this past weekend, it was a Sunday actually, I was sitting there having my coffee and it just clicked in my head that I had to go organize my son's bedroom. It had been bothering me since he started school. And I was thinking like, he can't be productive and I can't be productive unless his room is organized. But I'm not great at organizing. It's more of like an instantaneous, it just popped in my head. Let's go do it. And then everybody hates me in my household when it happens.
Why do they hate you?
Oh, because I'm grouchy, because I'm literally tearing everything out of my son's room. And I'm like, you don't need this. You don't need this. And he's literally looking at me like, I cannot believe you don't think I want any of these things and you're getting rid of them. And I'm making him. Like, I'm the one that's like the organizing, like mean mom. And I go in with like, here's the bag for Goodwill. Here's the bag for the neighbor boys who are going to need your clothes. And here's the bag for absolute trash, never returning to this house again. And we're going to get rid of all this stuff. Like, why does that happen? I don't have good organizing skills. I just have these moments maybe of inspiration, but I'm not really an organizer. I don't know.
So 2 things I would want to say to that. One is, I believe women have been fed this myth that we cannot have it all. We cannot win at work and win at home. And I disagree.
Oh, good. Okay.
I just think that it takes 3 years in order to get both trains running on the tracks that support the phase of life that you're in. So your kids have left the early childhood years.
Yep.
They've been in full-time school for a long time.
Yeah. They're 5th grade, 7th grade. So like 10, almost 13.
Yeah. You're starting into middle school and you're always going to go by your oldest child. So you're starting into middle school.
Yes.
And that is going to be a 2-year phase for your oldest, but really your family's going to be in that phase for 5 years. And then you're headed into high school.
Yes.
And 12 years old is when children really start to become their own independent person, separate from their parents. So the job that I quit, I was teaching Montessori 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And it was so interesting to watch the 6th grade kids come in, little mini parrots of their parents, and leave like completely separate individuals. Like they adulted during those middle school years. It's super, super cool. So what I would say to that is, and what I usually say is for you to organize you. So let me ask you a couple questions.
I love this. Okay, good.
Is your closet the way you want it to be right now?
No.
Okay, so that's where I would have you start. When you get that energy to organize your son's room, then I have you say, because people will also say their spouses. And I say, okay, are all of your spaces organized? Your bathroom, your bedroom, your backpack, your purse, your car, your closet, your email, your calendar.
No, I 100%.
Jesse's shaking her head.
No, I'm shaking my head. No, because I think I deflect on my own crap and then I focus on theirs because it's much easier.
But it's easy. It's totally easier.
Is that fair?
Somebody else. It's totally fair.
Okay.
And that is what I think most organizers are like, do the family spaces, do the kids. And I say, no, organize you 100%. Give yourself a full year to organize you. Doesn't matter. Is your son's bedroom organized today?
Well, okay. So we did it Sunday. Last night I went upstairs and I was like, why the hell do you have shoes out? Is your towel out? You have clothes out. I'm like,
4 days, people, 4 days.
Oh, for real.
Yeah.
And then
that's why you don't do it.
I was angry mom again. And he looked at me, he's like, I'm really going to bed, mom, not liking you right now. And I was like, okay, let's pause. Let's love on each other. Let's get you to bed in a happy space. But I was mad.
So my first, 6 years in organizing, I'm professionally organizing people's houses. And what I noticed in Cincinnati is every single house is the same house. Like they're even basically the same square footage. Add 1,000 square feet if you have money. Anyway, they're all the same. They're all the same size. They're all the same layout, unless you have a Homerama house, which is like the newfangled house. Nobody has those except the Homerama people.
Yeah.
They're all exactly the same.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, what is the difference? Why am I organizing these houses differently if they're all the same layout? They're all basically the same. It was the composition of the family in the houses.
Got it.
Was it singles? Were they married? Did they have kids? Were they school age? Were they empty nesters? Were they getting remarried? Like that, the uniqueness was the people in the house, not the house. And then I started to organize the house based on the people and the phase of life, not necessarily the rooms of the house. So I had like 10 different ways I organized a kitchen, depending on who was using the kitchen.
Got it.
And a lot of times when we search on the internet for organizing ideas, there's like a design aesthetic we're going for, but it does not match the function of our house. So we're like, I'm going to do this project and we have it look pretty like it is on the internet, And then we get ticked off at our family because they're not matching the picture on the internet.
Right.
And I remember back in the blogging days, I can't remember the name of the blog, but boy, this woman had a beautiful house. Like she literally was like the most organized person in the United States or something. So Better Homes and Gardens came to do a photo shoot of her house. They came in and changed things in the perfect house for the photo shoot. I was like, well, then game over. Like if the magazine is going to change pictures in the perfect house, then what game am I playing here? I'm not even playing this game. So instead of playing the design aesthetic game, I play the organization game. Yes, you have to declutter, but here's what happens when you declutter. And here's what happened with your son. You wanted his room organized, but what you actually did was you decluttered. You did not organize.
No, you're 100% right.
And so you had decluttered his room before, but you were still frustrated. So you went to re-declutter it. And now you're decluttering things he wanted.
Yeah.
Because you only know how to get organization over that space through decluttering.
I only know how to feel better about what I think is organization by getting crap out of my house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that works the first or second time. But by the third time, the family has resentment. You have resentment. Everyone's stressed because it doesn't work unless you want to be a minimalist, which I'm not. And very few people are really.
I mean, I think in my head, I'm like, I want to be one, but it can't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah. We just need more toilet paper.
Yeah, we do.
So,
well, I recently just got a Costco membership, so game over on the minimalist.
Right. And it moved right out to Westchester, right by it. So we're getting lots of Costco.
We're getting lots of Costco.
So what happens is, like, if you think about your closet now, in 2012, when I organized my closet, I'm the heaviest I've ever been. We have zero money. And my kids are in middle school. And I realized I had not bought clothing for myself in a decade because they were babies and like they're constantly outgrowing their clothes. So you have to prioritize their clothes. And I had beautiful clothes in my closet because, I used to shop at Talbot's and my mom would buy me clothes. And I literally had like a honeymoon layette thing. Like when I got married, we did the whole like father of the bride thing. I left in a suit. It was like a fairy tale. Well, the fairy tale was over. The bubble had been popped. I was 40 and I looked at my closet and legitimately only 3 outfits fit me, but the closet was full. And I couldn't just declutter the closet and admit that only 3 outfits in that closet fit me, like one pair of pants and then some tops that went with it.
Sure.
And so what I needed to do was declutter some, but I also needed to add. So I decluttered these really nice clothes I had that were never going to fit me again to Snooty Fox, which is a resale shop in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And then I went back a couple weeks and there was some money there and I bought clothes there with that money. And I created a new to me closet by the end of the year by arbitraging my own stuff. It was a very small closet by the end of the year. It took me, 3 rounds through, but I had about 12 outfits I could wear. And then as I was professionally organizing, people would be like getting rid of so many clothes. And they'd be like, take whatever you want and then donate the rest. So I would take whatever I wanted and then I would, sell it at Snooty Fox and give them, a portion of it. Like I had it in my contract that way. And that's also how I built my wardrobe. So sometimes when decluttering doesn't work when you don't have a lot or when you're in a season where you don't have a lot, but organization will always support whatever season you're in. It just takes time.
Yeah.
And organization is an investment of current time for a return of future exponential time. So with your son, once you get organized first, they're in school, just let the kids be in school, do this next summer. This year, I would have you focus on your closet, your bathroom, your bedroom, and your Sunday basket. And then next summer, focus on the kids, but not you. Put them in the kids program.
I think that's perfect. And you mentioned Sunday basket, which I will share you my Sunday basket that I started. But I want to sort of pivot a minute before we talk about the Sunday basket and ask, here you are in Westchester, Cincinnati suburb. And you are growing your business. How do you scale? How did you come up with this idea of how to scale? Because you were doing a physical thing. You were going into people's homes. It was just you. And then it became, a team of yous that went into the homes. But how did you come up with this idea of, okay, now I want to reach homes across the entire United States, not just in my suburb or just in my city?
Such a great question. Thank you for this question.
Yeah.
So I desperately needed me to help me organize my house. But I told you I was overweight, didn't have any, I could never hire a professional organizer. As a professional organizer, 50% of the time people cancel on you.
Oh.
Yep. I need new tires now, so I don't have the money for you. Or they get embarrassed. They don't want you in your house. Like it's not you, it's them. And it's a lot of money. And so I knew immediately that, I was able to earn an income this way, but it only helped a very small set of the population,
Right.
who also were using their money for other resources. Now, one of the very first jobs I ever had was a woman who had 2 babies, like a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And she had a very, very small house. And she had me organize the baby's room, like all the clothes and everything. I loved it. I made like $100. I was so excited. It was 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I came out of the room and I vacuumed it. It was perfect. She's like, I love it. I was wondering if I bought you pizza, if you could do the toddler's room. And I was like, yes, double the money and I get pizza. This is so great. So I ate the pizza. I did his room. I vacuumed it. It's all done. I came out. She walks me to the door. She handed me $200. She said, my husband just lost his job this morning, and shut the door in my face. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she lived in a very small house.
Yeah.
And I was like, they need this. I needed the money, but they needed the money. Like we both needed the money. And I was like, okay, this is going to be fine for a season, but how do I help her without taking $200? Now I charge a pretty penny for my products, but they give back great reward.
Yeah.
But how do we give back? And so, and also I'd been a blogger. Like I knew about online income and passive income. And the reason I quit my job was because my job was not working because my kids' needed me more than the hours I was off. So I needed flexibility. So as I was organizing people's houses and I realized organization was a learnable skill, I was like, okay, well, you're a teacher. Figure out how to teach this on the internet.
Yeah.
How do you, decluttering you can do on the internet, easy. Aesthetics, easy. Organizing, not easy.
Right.
Because it's like class. It's like teaching. And what paper are you holding up? So I'm a specialist in organizing paper. That's the hardest thing to teach virtually. But I found a way. So I challenged myself with doing that. So after 3 years of doing in-home organizing, I started the podcast and not a YouTube channel. First of all, because I didn't want to have to do my hair and the video, and it was going to be a huge, lift to do it.
It's an investment.
Yeah. And I didn't have the time and the money, and I just I'm too quick start for that. But I thought also, I don't think it really is going to serve the ultimate audience. There are a lot of YouTubers that do organizing. And so I did a podcast instead. And the reason why is because if I am doing a YouTube channel in my kitchen, you're judging my kitchen. Oh, I wish I had those counters. It must be nice that she has those things.
Sure.
But when you're doing a podcast, you're just listening and you're in your own kitchen looking at your own space. You don't know what my kitchen looks like.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it was more like being a professional organizer, saying, okay, what's in this drawer? Take everything out, remove this. And so you're actually doing it with your things instead of being distracted by what I'm doing on the YouTube channel.
So you're almost like working alongside them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I was like, okay, this is going to work. And I started my podcast in 2015. We're going to be 10 years old.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. So, and it worked because people are like, okay, yeah. Like the first year is just like you're getting under your belt doing podcasting. But then I really started to say, okay, let's think about our houses as communal spaces. Let's think about our kids' bedrooms as mini apartments and our bedroom as a condo. Okay, so in your family now, if you think about it as mini apartments, you have 2 kids that have mini apartments. You're the landlord. Do they have, are they able to petition for a change of color of paint in their apartment?
Oh, that's currently on my daughter's list.
Yeah, every 3 years I would do that. And then, if they maintain their space, can they petition for, enhancements in their room if they pay for part or ask for them for the holidays? And so I viewed my kids' bedrooms as mini apartments, one, to give them autonomy, but second, because they need to learn how to manage an apartment in my house before they could be in a dorm room or a condo or a house of their own.
God. Like there are so many light bulb moments going off in my head right now.
And
my
nobody
head is
does
literally
this.
the emoji of mind blown is literally happening right now.
Great. Because that's what I always like to say. My podcast is like a head spinner because you leave it and then you're like, what did she say? Like I never thought. I want you to think about your house in a different way. So then moving ahead, I always had the desire to have an online e-commerce business so I could have flexibility for myself. Fast forward to today, our company allows all women, except for my son, to work in our company, and they work their regular hours, but we're very flexible. Like if there's donuts with daddy or mommy muffins or whatever, they just go to it. They don't have to say, they have to go to it. We all work from home on Thursdays, even though we're a shipping company, we just don't ship on Thursdays so that everybody has a little bit of work from home, even if you work in the warehouse. They're just, when the gas prices got too high, I implemented, it was $50 per employee per week. When gas prices got to, I think, $5 per gallon. And then when it was $4. $5, you got $100. When it went to $6, you got $150. I said, if we get to 7, we're going to have a new conversation because I value employees being in the office.
Yes.
I just really like it.
Yes.
And I know it's something, I know they could do more of their work from home. I just really like it. They actually really like it too.
Yeah.
But it is a benefit to me to have them come in. So I paid for part of their gas. And then as gas went back down, eventually that stipend went away. So when women work, there is so much extra load placed on them because they're still managing everything in the household. They're still managing all the kids. They're still managing all the invisible load, but they're also an amazing asset inside of my company.
Yeah.
And so I really try to balance that. And as I found more female business owners that employ women, we run our households differently. So yes, I desired to get out of the in-home organizing space and into the online organizing space. But then once I achieved that for myself and created a physical product company where we have to ship things and a team that has to support the business, I then am trying to create as many of those benefits for my employees as well, so they don't have to quit their job in order to have time flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's perfect. I think, especially hitting on the point of like women just work
all the time.
Well, they do work
let's just
all the
say
time.
Women just work. Period.
They do. They do.
All day, every day.
Sometimes I leave here and I'm like, okay, I'm going to my second job, my second full-time job, which starts at like 5:01 because I'm in the car and I'm calling my husband and we're rethinking because practice got changed or whatever happened. And you know, so what am I doing for dinner? Am I waiting for you? Am I pulling something out of the free, what's happening? I mean, you are, I feel like I narrate my family's life all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And the way that I kind of explain it is this. When I say that you can win at home and win at work, is that it's 2 different hats that you wear, but you're one person. So you're always thinking about your paid job and you're always thinking about your unpaid job, but they run on different train tracks. Yep. So the systems you put in place at work are different than the systems you need to put in place at home. Agree. And I am getting my PhD now because I want to have an academic voice and be able to make bigger impact in what I'm doing. And what I have realized in this process and the problem that I hope to solve is that there are no operational systems at home. Every single person, once they leave their childhood home, then has to create their own operational systems at home. This is why I love the kids program. Because if you do think about your bedroom as your own mini apartment, or you go back to live with your parents as an adult, like my daughter lives with us in our basement with her child, we call that her apartment. And I just had it renovated. Like we put a washer dryer down there because I wanted my washer dryer back. But right. But it's a full kitchen minus a oven. The grandchild got a bigger bedroom. Like we totally renovated it because we see it as a separate part of our house, even though it's part of our house. Yep. And she is completely independent in that space. She has a walkout basement. Yeah. In the 50s and 60s, when World War II was over and people came back into the industrialized nation, and we started to have white collar workers, which we really didn't before then. That's when you got KPIs and Maslow's hierarchy was applied to workers, and you started to get in operational systems in work and quarterly planning, quarterly reviews. All that stuff started in the 50s and 60s, and it's just been built out until now. In households, that's never been done. Like maybe you learned from your grandmother or your mother, but that's really only in, married families with children, which is pretty much all that's been researched in academia. Right. It eliminates the 60% of people who are not married or don't have children, which is a lot of people, which is something I want to change. But universally, there are some operational systems. So here in Cincinnati, I've been talking to Welcome House in Kentucky. I've been talking to the Free Store Food Bank. I've been talking to Habitat for Humanity in Missouri. I've been talking to WIC in Missouri. These are all cases where people go from homelessness to houses, or they go from, in the case of the Free Store Food Bank, they receive food in high school and they run that Free Store Food Bank. And I said to the director, I said, okay, what happens when they turn 19 and they're out of high school? How do they know how to get food and create food? Like, are we doing menu planning? Like, how do you learn how to run a household? Yeah. Where's the household management school? Right. It does not exist. No. And in America, and not in the modern way that we have these households. Exactly. Now. Yeah. In America and in media, if you read the book, The Secret History of Home Economics, the American housewife was created by consumer packaged goods companies in the 50s. Before that, women worked and they actually outsourced their laundry. The idea of having a stay-at-home mom like I wanted to be was manufactured through the media. And it is not actually how most families are. Like no. I did a study on Black families. And just looking at how Black families do housework, it's very different than how white families do it, but it gets buried in the literature because there's such a small population that is usually studied. And they are much more equitable in how they get things done. The men are much more engaged in how housework happens. They're much more communal in how they live in general, and how their households are comprised of. They have kinship, which means that, they'll have a cousin living there. Well, it might not actually be a blood cousin.
No.
But they call it a cousin. They call it a sister because they have a kinship in how they run their households. And we can learn a lot from what they do. But we're so media focused on what our house should look and be organized and what we think people will judge us on in our house. And also, when the heck did you have anybody at your house last?
Well, we have a revolving door, people.
Okay, well, that's lovely for you. Nobody comes to my house. A lot of us don't. And they're not in your bedrooms.
No,
they're not your storage rooms.
No. They're mainly on the main floor. And I will say, I feel like I need to say this because this is, as I was hearing what you were saying, I joked about it with my husband when we first got married almost 20 years ago, is that my mom actually passed on to my husband, here's how you do Jesse's laundry.
Nice.
Because
I love this story. This is the best story I've ever heard.
Yes. And major props to my husband because I get yelled at when I touch the laundry. He's like, that is my laundry room.
Hashtag goals.
Yes. Hashtag goals. He's wonderful. But we joke about it because he was like, what? And she's like, oh, I hang this, I hang this, I hang this, I do this, I don't put this in the dryer, da, 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 da. And then she gave him, like, as a funny joke, but she bought him like a laundry basket and bought him a bunch of laundry supplies and all the things. But like, here's how you do her laundry because she doesn't do it. And he and I do have a very, I didn't realize how unique it was, but after talking with you and other people, like, it's a pretty unique scenario. He does a lot in our household to make sure that we can continue to run and operate. Yeah.
Yeah. And mine does too. My husband does too.
Yeah.
Through abdication though.
Yeah. No.
So I tell him he's not allowed to do laundry because he does selfish laundry doing, which is he does like one pair of jeans. Who does that? Anyways, I'm like, get out of the laundry room.
Yeah.
I'll handle the laundry.
Yeah.
But when I was growing Organized 365 and I started to get some traction, I was driving 25 hours a week by the time I was in year 5.
Yeah.
Because the kids were going to 2 different schools in 2 different directions and all the doctor's appointments. And so I came home one day. And by then I was making enough money that I'd replace my teaching salary plus a little bit. And I said, here's the thing. I buy fast food. Like 90% of our meals are fast food.
Yeah.
I give the kids a protein bar. We get in the car. I buy a fast food lunch. I'm always in the car. They get a fast food dinner.
Yeah.
We buy groceries and throw them out like it's ridiculous.
All the time.
And I said, you have a car. You have a credit card. You know where the stores are. I don't go there anymore. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I just buy fast food anyway. So I'm literally never going to the grocery store again.
Yeah.
And I just stopped going.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And he started going. And he's a much better cook than I am. But I had been cooking for 20 years because, I was the stay-at-home mom.
You were.
And so now we have it's like Jeff Ruby's at our house on Sunday night. There are appetizers, drinks, a new meal every week. It's so great.
So maybe you are going to start having people at your house because I live close enough probably that I'm just going to pop over now.
Well, okay. Well, and it is on our list, but our kids have been challenging. And if you take the diagnosis of allergies, ADHD, autism, and asthma, you hit 1 out of every 2 children in the United States. That's a 2000 statistic.
Yeah. It is. It's a very old statistic.
And allergies, like my grandson is allergic to eggs. It's not like, they just don't prefer something. It's like, no, if you give them that, you're getting out an EpiPen. Like it's not. Yeah. And so a lot of families, as their kids age, like ours, and you end up with diagnoses like this, you remove yourself from society because it's just easier to just have your own system. And that's kind of what we did. And so we have to figure out how do we reinsert ourselves if we're going to.
Yep.
But that's the first thing I did. I got rid of like anything food related. And so that was not only the grocery shopping, but everything that went along with that. And then slowly over time, I just kept, putting my husband in charge of more things. So in 2020, I came out with a book. I was supposed to have a book tour. You all know what happened.
Yeah.
So in 2021, I wrote another book called Organization is a Learnable Skill, my story of 2012 about how I got organized, self-published. And then I created my own book tour. It's a 6-week book tour. I went to 13 different cities. And in there, I had our weekly trip to the beach. Mm-hmm. And so I was gone for a month and then a week after the trip to the beach. And my husband said, this house is going to fall apart when you leave. I said, I don't do anything here other than laundry. Like I literally do nothing. He's like, no, you do everything. I'm like, you're going to be surprised. I do nothing. I can pay bills from the road, like the Sunday basket. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I left and he said, no, you can never leave again. But the truth is I worked my way out of that job at home. I'm not responsible for anything at home anymore. And I can travel, which is what I want to do next. I want to do a lot of travel.
Yeah.
So, there was some renegotiation. My husband would like me to be a stay-at-home dog mom now. Yeah. I'm like, this is not, I don't know why you don't see the building that we have and the employees and all of that. But he's counting down the days to retirement. I'm like, I'm going to work till I'm 80. He's like, whatever.
Yeah. But I think that's also true. I think that women, again, I did the stay-at-home mom thing for a summer and it ended quickly because my husband was like, I think it's time, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I felt like that was my purpose. It was the thing that I needed to do.
Yeah.
Okay. You brought up Sunday basket. I have to bring out my Sunday basket.
Okay. Bring it out.
So Deba in her, Jesse, you've got to try this Sunday basket attack mode. It was sent to me. It was lovely. I left it on my counter. I didn't touch it. She would check in with me and I'm like, all right, fine. I'll open this darn thing up. And so I opened it up and I started putting everything in like the basket, like a laundry basket. That's how I started. Yes. And then I slowly moved into, I think what I'm doing right. But I was like, well, Lisa's coming on the podcast. Hold on. We're just going to pull this thing out.
Let's do it. So the Sunday basket helps you move from reactive to proactive mode. Like as a household manager, you have a bunch of projects that you've had in process, maybe for the whole 20 years that you've been married. And then you have requests that came in 5 minutes ago, and it's all decisions that need to be made either today or 10 years from now. And how do you keep track of all those decisions that are in process?
And papers.
Yes, definitely papers.
Papers. So here's the actual manual that was sent along with it. I haven't filled anything out, you can see, because I just keep thinking I'm still in this step.
Yes. And that's so normal.
Yeah.
So step one is to just start to realize how many decisions you're making.
Yes.
The paper that's coming in, but also the paper that you've been saving all over the house. And then also all your ideas in your head that need to be on paper so that you remember them.
Yes. Yes.
That's step one. And that takes about 6 weeks.
Okay. So I'm in that process.
A+. I'm
doing it okay.
Yes, you get a gold star.
Okay, because I really like to do things right. Okay.
Okay, and I'm so glad you said that because so many people will buy the Sunday basket and then just like you, they're like, I don't know how to do it. I'm not doing it right. I'm not going to get an A+, so I'm just going to defer.
Yes.
No. What did I tell you about my business? I quit my job and I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to name it. Okay, so here's the first thing I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You can only organize and make iterations when you're in process. You can't do it all in your mind and on paper and then perfectly end up like organization is a process. It's a learning. It's a step by step.
Yeah. In what, 3 years?
3 years to get all the way organized.
Okay. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up as we kind of talk through this is I think you called it a golden window.
Yes.
Right?
Oh.
So
I love golden windows.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, again, I'm 42. I did really feel in my gut when you said hitting 40, you kind of let go of like, I don't know, the give-a-shits. I'm going to just call it the give-a-shits.
Yes. Other people's expectations for you or their opinions of you.
Yes. I have a group of friends who are like my thick as thieves group. There's a couple of us, we have banded together, and turning 40 was probably one of the best moments that I've had. Since then, things have fallen off the wagon. Okay. Your body falls apart, whatever. But turning 40 was amazing. And I will say the give-a-shits, the expectations, those are kind of dwindling. But I feel like I'm in my golden window.
And what happens between 40 and 50, now that I am 50, is that you keep vacillating back to, oh, maybe I should put the kids first. Maybe I should. But what happens by the time you get to 50 is you're like, no one's going to take care of me.
Yeah.
And if I don't take care of me, no one could take care of them.
That's fair.
And so between 40 and 50, you're wrestling with putting your needs on the list at all. And by the time you get to 50, you're like, okay, my needs actually have to be first. And then from this full cup, I
can take care of everybody else.
Yes. And people will say that. And when you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you try it, but really in your head, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to fill my cup. Like, okay, it's full. All right, now everybody. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I have to fill. Once you're 50, you're like, no, I fill every day, all the time. My cup is always full.
Yep.
Because I put in habits and systems and routines that make sure my cup is always full so that when the emergency happens, I'm ready for action because I didn't wait and my cup is now depleted and the emergency has happened.
Yes.
So it's a process in your 40s of continually not being selfish. Okay, this is enough. So I have a lot of words that I've come up with, a whole glossary, because again, we don't have any
Is that
operational.
in the back of here?
No. It's,
Okay.
It's 10 years of the podcast.
Okay.
No, there are some glossary episodes though, because how we look at our household, we need more words for everything.
Yep.
So in my PhD, I was studying the life cycle. And you know, in children, there's like all these different developmental stages.
Yep.
And so I was asking my developmental stages teacher, what are the adult life stages? And she's like, oh, you know, Erickson from 1950s, he designed them and they're like 2. And I'm like, well, what about menopause? Because like, that's like the inverse of puberty.
We need to have a whole podcast about that.
And she's like,
plug your ears over there, Steve. I'm sorry. You can't really get into the perimenopause stage here with us.
She's like, that's not a developmental stage. I'm like, it's literally the inverse of puberty. I was like, how old are you? My professor, how old are you? She was like in her 30s and she had 2 little kids. I said, think about your mother. Think about your grandmother. Like, think about the phases. Until you've gone through these, you don't understand these are phases. And then most times by the time you go through them, you're not a psychologist.
No.
So it's not like you could do literature and academic. And this is why I'm getting my PhD, is a lot of what I say is known among humans and Americans and business owners and media. However, unless you actually do a scientific study and publish it in academia, it doesn't live beyond your generation.
And it doesn't live beyond your happy hour with your girlfriends.
Right. So we need more of these everyday conversations
Yes.
published in academia so that the conversation around housework goes away from just men aren't doing enough, which is the prevailing, and it's from a feminist ideology. And that's why only married couples with children are studied. Because how do you have one gender isn't doing enough if you're only looking at single parent households or people who are single or people who don't have children? And I'm like, okay, but that's only 40% of humanity. And also that's kind of like a marriage parenting problem, not as much of a household operational problem.
Right.
So when I look at the life cycle, I'm creating all my own stuff. This is fun. When you get a PhD, you get to do this.
Yeah.
So I look at childhood, which is from birth to 18. And then you have old age. Let's say it starts at 80 to 100. Okay. In those 2 areas, the care is called something different. It's called child care or elder care.
Yep.
So when you can no longer take care of yourself, you're in elder care and somebody helps you. And when you are a child, you have child care. Like you can't just leave your kids alone.
Right.
Like somebody has to watch them. So what I think is self-care is 18 to 80. And self-care means you are taking on your own care for laundry, dishes, meal prep, bill pay, household management, just like you would for a child or you would for your parents when they become elderly. Self-care is not a bubble bath and it is not a massage. It is an everyday need that all humans have. Yes. So that's what I'm saying is we need to redefine self-care. And don't worry, I will in academia for you. So that it is like every human needs care.
Yep.
If a human is incapable of their own care for whatever reason, then they fall under childcare or elder care. Otherwise, everyone is self-care. And self-care is everything you would do for a child or someone who is elderly, which includes not just bathing, laundry, and meal prep, but also think about retirement centers and think about children. It includes activities, passions, professional development, education, stimulation, not just the basics. And like we as women, especially as we get to our middle age, we're like, okay, well, I got a 5-minute bath. Well, I got 10 minutes to get ready on my own, so that must fill my self-care bucket. No. If you're enrolling the kids in camp, you get to enroll in knitting class or whatever.
Yeah.
If your spouse goes golfing, you get to go do pickleball or whatever you want.
Yes.
Like there should be equal leisure time, equal education, equal everything inside of all household units. And what usually happens is, my observation, children are high intensity if you have children. And so their needs come first because they have to, because they're like based on their survival.
Yeah.
But now your kids are very self-sufficient.
They are very self-sufficient and I'm lucky. Yeah.
So because most are when they're in the grade school ages. And that is when women need to start having their own self-care needs met beyond laundry, dishes, and food. Hobbies, intellectual engagement, social, all that needs to come in play. I didn't do that. And that's why I don't have a social life now because I never re-engaged mine.
And I think one of the things that you talk about, and you mentioned it already, is like investing in your time now.
Yes.
Here, Sunday basket, investing in this so that I can create exponential time for myself over a period of however long it took, maybe 3 years, if that's what it is, to get organized, to create the processes, to get myself in a place where I can focus more on the things I want to focus on versus the things that I totally dread, which is household admin chores.
Yeah. And if the
Right?
admin's in your head, then nobody can help you. But once it's in a
Exactly.
basket, people can either help you or they know where to get it. So most people say that their big win with Organized 365, the first time they realize they're organized, is when they're not at home and they can guide anyone at home to getting information out of either a binder or a box.
Okay.
And they go, oh, I didn't have to turn the car around to go
Yeah.
find the thing for them. I was able to say, go in the Sunday basket or go in this binder. You will find the information you need. And they were allowed to stay going in the direction they were going.
Got it. Got it. So this Sunday basket,
Yes.
just talk us through overview, talk us through it, like kind of give the infomercial. Pretend we're on like QVC or something.
Okay, let's pretend we're Deba would like me to be on QVC, by the way.
Okay, good. This is our manifestation to get you onto QVC.
Deba has a lot of goals, which I love.
I do love.
Okay, the Sunday basket. The best example of the Sunday basket is this one. You're coming home, you're pulling in the driveway.
Okay.
You need to change the laundry and you need to start dinner. And you go to the mailbox and you grab the mail.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to flip through the mail and you're like, oh, I need to reply to this person. I need to pay this. You know what? This just needs to be recycled. I'm going to recycle it on my way into the house so I don't have to look at this again. And you go in and you start dinner and then you do, homework with the kids and you're upstairs getting ready and you get ready the next morning and you're like, I didn't switch the laundry. And that was the kids' whatever for this morning for school. Now you've got to switch the laundry now, actually take them to school because it's not going to be dry enough in time. Go back home, get whatever it is they need, take it back up to school. So what I mean, you're losing all that time because you looked at the mail.
Yeah.
You always have a plan. You always know how you're going to spend your time. But the distractions of everyday life
It derails you.
Yes. And then you don't do what you were intending on doing. And then you're like, why can't I get it together? So the Sunday
I feel like that every evening. Why could I not get my
What's the matter
crap
with me?
together? Yes. I can't be the only one. Yeah.
No, exactly. So I learned this when my kids were 6 months and 2 years old, and they would fall asleep and I would try to get something done and I would never get anything done. I was like, I'm getting further and further behind. I don't even know why. So the only thing the Sunday basket does to begin with is it makes every single decision that can wait until Sunday.
Okay.
So that mail should have just come in and be put in the Sunday basket. You don't even flip through it.
Got it.
Change the laundry, start the dinner. You're still on your own plan. The kids come up to you and they go, I want to go to Susie Q's birthday party next week or, a week from now. That decision can be made on Sunday. They say, I have a school project that is due tomorrow. You're in your car on the way to the store to buy whatever they need from
Yeah.
them.
Right.
So the only thing you're doing is determining do I have to make this decision now? Can I wait until Sunday to make this decision?
Got it.
Every single decision has to be made on Sunday if it can be made on Sunday.
Got it.
Including the things in your brain.
Okay.
So you're like, oh my gosh, when was the last time I got my haircut? Do I need to get my haircut? Then you go, am I going to get cut this week? No. Write it on an index card, put it in the Sunday basket.
Got it.
I just gave the dog the last flea and tick. I need to reorder flea and tick. Can they wait to Sunday? Yes. Just take the box, put it in the Sunday basket.
That's why this is full.
Yes. And you can put anything you want in there. So you're like making food. You use the last of the cumin and whatever you're making. Just take the container, put it in the Sunday basket.
Okay.
You don't even put it on the grocery list. Can wait till Sunday. Just put it in the Sunday basket. And you're like, oh my gosh, well then there's going to be so much to do on Sunday. Right. But it's not like you're not already doing it.
Right.
You're just going to do it on Sunday. So what this does is this frees up your weekday time to do whatever you had planned on Sunday to do. Because you already planned all your time. It's not like you're like, oh, no, Thursday, I have nothing to do. Nobody said nobody anyway.
Right.
And then on Sunday, you're like, oh. Now, here's why this is good. You have to make all these decisions at one time. Number one, you will make better decisions because you'll be tired of making decisions. You'll be like, we're not doing it. Instead of overcommitting because they're like, well, I guess we can squeeze it in. No, I'm at my bandwidth. No.
Yeah.
You make better financial decisions because you make all your financial decisions on Sunday. So if you get 3 different requests for money during the week and then you get to Sunday and you can only grant 2, you pick which 2.
That's fair.
Or like if it's charitable requests, Greg and I just kind of bank those until a certain time. And then we look at all the charitable requests that have come in and we make a more strategic decision versus the $20 here and the $10 here.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Because you just frivolously do the thing. Yeah.
Because you don't want to put it on a list and you don't want to be like rude.
Yep.
But now you could just say, oh, we make all of our charitable decisions 4 times a year or something like that. Mm-hmm. And what you're doing is
I make my budget decisions on Sunday now.
Yes.
I can say that.
So when I was doing this, I had no money. So then every single errand was going to happen on Tuesday. And so if you wanted something, you had to put in your request into the Sunday basket. I would make the decisions on Sunday. I was a stay-at-home mom. So I could get up on Tuesday. I would go to the farthest out errand and I would work my way back home. Here's what happens. You get exhausted. You don't want to go in the stores. This was before you could buy everything online.
Yeah, right.
But you get exhausted. You don't want to go in the stores. Also, you only have a limited amount of money. And so you're like, okay, well, obviously not all these wishes are going to be granted. But if you're granting wishes like a genie every single minute with your time and your money,
oh my gosh,
then you end up overcommitted in your time and not enough money. And you're like, how did I get this way? Because you're trying to make decisions in real time because you don't want to put them on a list because you can't find the last 10 lists that you made. Plus the lists have so many different things on them. Like you look at them and you're overwhelmed and you just cross off the easiest things to do and never get to the hard things.
And I literally was like, maybe I should just self-diagnose my my ADHD because that's what's going on. I don't know. Steve, do you do that? Like, I'm just done. I'm like, oh, well, I'm ADHD.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Right.
So, I actually got diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago because I did an online thing just to see if it would work. And I was like, look, I'm definitely ADHD, but I don't, my life still works for me.
But you can still create a process.
I believe, I have always said this. I believe that ADHD is an evolution of the brain.
Yep.
I do not think that it is it's a neuro, I don't know what's a politically correct term now. It's not a disability.
Sure.
I think it is if people who think the way that an ADHD person thinks are able to take a lot of different variables into account and make a decision, and they're not linear, like do this, do this, do this, do this. They're able to pivot a lot.
Yep.
And that's what you need today.
Yeah.
Like they did better in COVID.
Right.
Because they were able to pivot faster because they weren't like, who moved my cheese? Why can't I do the things I used to do?
Yeah, exactly.
However, we will overcommit.
Yes.
Because we want to grant everybody's wishes.
Yes.
So you put them all the wishes into the Sunday basket. This is going to take 90 minutes to 3 hours to do every Sunday.
This one's certainly a 3-hour one.
And that's fine. I mean, I don't think it's a problem.
I don't either. No, I don't. Because here's the thing that I learned in just my novice Sunday basket knowledge is that I spread everything out. I went through it initially just because it was a Sunday and I thought, well, this is the Sunday. I'm going to just start making sure I put it all in here. But I initially went through it and thought, oh, there's a lot of stuff I can just say, I don't need this right now.
Gone.
Yeah, there were coupons that I had been saving because I had these aspirations that we were going to go try this Mexican restaurant because we were going to get $5 off. Oh my God, who cares, right?
Yeah. Pay the $5, get rid of the coupon.
Get rid of the coupon. Yes, exactly. Plus, But now I'm here and I'm like, am I doing this right? Am I putting the things in here right? Right? Like, and I have things in here that I'm thinking, I don't care about this anymore. These are stickers. Why have I been hanging on? Do you know that this sticker right here, I have held for 3 years on my counter? Mm. Why has this been on my counter for 3 years?
Well, because you might need it someday.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
The kids might ask for it. The school might say, those stickers we gave you 3 years ago, we need those now.
Yes.
And so as you get into this and you start to get in the habit, you'll come across things where you're like, no, I really do want to do this, but it's not for this season, either financially or just timing. Like this is great information for our trip to the beach next year.
Yes.
This is a vacation I want to take someday. This is a renovation we want to do in our house when we have the money. Where do you put that stuff? You leave it on the kitchen counter because you don't want to forget. Because if you move it, you'll never. So that's what the slash pockets are for. Therefore, they not this week, but in the future. Okay. So as you go through the Sunday basket, you process everything that you can do on Sunday, you do on Sunday. So I pay my bills. I'll schedule anything online. I'll do my grocery pickup, like everything I can schedule, I do. Then you plan out your week on paper. I know you have a Google Calendar. I do too. But when you write it on paper, that's when you realize, there's no way to get from gymnastics to soccer in that amount of time. So that actually isn't going to happen.
The mom math isn't mathing.
Exactly. So then you're like, okay, honey, are we going to miss one of these or can you do one? Or like you have those conversations on Sunday, not Tuesday night. You plan out your meals for the week. I plan out my outfits for the week. Like, okay, we're doing an interview today. What are you going to wear on interview day? All right, you're just driving in the car. That's a ponytail day. Like which days am I washing my hair? That's a 20-minute decision per day.
Yeah.
So I write all that down. And the more you can plan that out, the faster and easier your week goes. And that's when you start to make traction during the week. Because now you're like, okay, made all of these decisions and everything that comes up between now and next Sunday can wait until Sunday. Now I've got an hour and a half a day. What do I want to do with that hour and a half? Whereas in the past, the hour and a half would go to making decisions,
Yes.
rework, putting out fires, and you didn't have any traction.
Administrative chores that you don't want to do anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So then talk about, because I know this, but I want everybody else to hear, talk about the support that you have through online, because I don't think anybody should have to do their Sunday basket alone. I don't think that everybody, you know what I mean? I mean, I think that there's just going to be things that you're like, oh, I just need support. I just need to have someone walk me through this or be on my journey with me.
So this is the awesome part about being a teacher. So as I was teaching people in Cincinnati how to get organized, and as I was creating Organized 365 through the podcast, and I started with an online course, I was like, okay, well, if you can do anything you want, which by the way, women, we could do anything we want all the time. No one stops you from doing almost everything. I wish I had known that a lot sooner. Anyways, I was like, as I was teaching people the Sunday basket, I had not patented or manufactured this. So we were using like Longaberger baskets and whatever slash pockets you could find at the store. And if you look at the Sunday basket, like I manufacture slash pockets, which are binder inserts in solid colors. So like 5 pink, 5 purple, 5 blue. Well, the way that you buy them in the store is they're like a rainbow, which is fine, but you can't then divide out your different hats. So we have personal hat, a family hat, a household hat, and a financial hat that we wear as household managers. If everything is rainbow, then there's a lot of confusion in your brain. I was like, okay, I have to make the school supplies for the classes that I'm teaching. I need to create a box where the slash pockets will stand up in the back, but it's big enough in the front that you can throw in a light bulb if you need to.
Yeah.
Like, and it will look pretty on your counter. And once I had the school supplies, I was like, okay, every Organized 365 product has a physical component. So everybody's using the same school supplies because we're in school.
Yep.
It has a course component. So you can watch videos of me doing it.
Yeah.
It has an online community private app. So no one in your Facebook group knows what you're doing while you're trying to get your together.
Right.
And then it has a co-working time. So 90 minutes not every Sunday, it's about 40 Sundays of the year for 90 minutes live. You can go into the app and you can process your Sunday basket along with an Organized 365 team member and or watch the replay. And it's every week. So it's new, like going through the Sunday basket. We have that for our Friday work box. We have that for our teacher work box. We have it for our homeschool box. We have that for our home organizing program.
Okay. That's what I need to do.
It's the community. Like,
I think that's
you're
right.
doing it in isolation.
Well, yeah, the isolation. And then you just kind of feel like, am I the crazy one? Right? And you're not. There's a lot of people who need this kind of organization, but I'm loving the fact that I just throw it in there. Now I just need to like take that next step.
And that's all included. Like, so with the Sunday basket, all that's included. Now there's one additional thing you can do. Before I even manufactured the Sunday basket, I started a certification program. And I did that because I know some people actually need to talk one-on-one with people or in a small group. And I knew that the online community would be big, and it is big. There are like hundreds of people that do that live. So if you come on Sunday and you ask a question, your question's probably not going to get answered.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not a one-on-one session. It's a co-working time. Yeah. But a lot of times to implement a system like this that's going to change your life, it's worth a session or two with a professional organizer. And it's just like a 45-minute session. It's not like this is going to break the bank. Or there are certified organizers that have those Sunday basket sessions. Now they're paid for, but they're not a lot of money, where you're just working with, 4 to 10 people. And then your questions are answered live. And so I know as a teacher in a classroom, all students need different supports. They all need to be using the same school supplies. So we manufacture. They all need to get the same textbook of the course. So we have that. And then they all need classroom time. So we have that. But then some students need some individual instruction or tutoring or one-on-one, and the certification provides that as well. So it really is like learning the skill of organizing is essential. It's doable for every single person. It takes a while. But there are a lot of stuff. Running a household. Oh, so this is my new favorite thing. And my chair says this is going to be the title of my Fortune magazine article. Okay. Great. So according to the 2022 U.S. Census, 68% of the U.S. GDP is household spending. America is the largest economic unit in the world. Yes. So I like to say that household managers are the largest small business in the world. And we are running on no operating system. No. And especially as women who choose to stay home or don't have financial resources, we're told that you should just know how to do this. Just figure it out.
This is our operating system. Yeah.
This is the first step in being able to delay your decision-making so you have more decision-making capacity Monday through Saturday. And then after you get this going and you have this open time during the week, it can be just 15 minutes a day, then you start adding on the systems. Okay, let's get our house organized. That's the productive home solution. Let's get our information and paper organized. That's the paper solution. Okay, let's get our work organized. That's the Friday workbox. Let's get our kids organized. There's a kids program. There's a launch program. And so really from birth through settling in a state, there is an organized 365 operational system that will support that.
I want to clap. I'm clapping.
I haven't had clapping on a podcast. This is so great.
Clapping. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. Thank you for, I don't know. I'm so energized. I love talking to you. I do think we need a part 2 to talk about, I know how to get here now. I know.
The organized person got lost coming to a place in her own city. Let's not worry about that.
No, let's not worry about that. But thank you. I really appreciate you doing this. And by the way, I picked mine in purple because I love purple, but there's all kinds of colors too that you can get. But
okay. So my favorite store to go to growing up was Office Max.
Yeah.
Like my mom, again, she started and sold a business out of our basement. And she would say, do you want to go to Office Max? I'm like, yes, let's look at the Sharpies. Let's look at everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, I did not like going to clothing stores. I like going to office supply stores. By the way, if you go to Staples, it looks like it did in the 80s. Like it's amazing.
It totally does. Yeah.
There has been no innovation in office supplies in the last 40
There's actually
years.
a commercial about it, which is, I'll send it to you.
Do it?
I'll send it to you. It's like, maybe it's radio. Do you know what I'm talking about, Steve? There's a commercial.
I have no idea.
Okay. We're going to look it up. I'm going to send it to you though.
So basically, once I made the Sunday basket, I'm like, okay, this is functional organizing. But I realized that we didn't have the office supplies you need to run a household because no one has ever bought school supplies for home. So yeah, Organized 365 has a whole line of things. Everything is color coded and it's like Gymboree. I used to love shopping at Gymboree because if you bought from one season to the next, all the colors always match.
They still match.
Yes. So that's how Organized 365 is. All of the systems go together. All the colors are exactly the same throughout the whole line. And so, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Fun. It is so fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Jesse.
This is my mom's favorite part.
When you and I talk together?
Yeah.
Carol, girl, thank you for listening and subscribing.
I know, right? She had better be tapping that bell or I'm not going to be very happy with her. Hey, okay. So Lisa Woodruff was on the podcast.
Yes, she was.
And I do honestly feel like I want to do a part 2 with her just because I loved talking with her. I thought she had a lot of just great insights. I don't know. Everything she said, I just like felt in my gut and I could feel it because I'm living through it or have lived through it. So I hope that this podcast means a lot to other parents, other households to help them just get organized.
Oh, the whole time I was listening to her, I just moved into a house with my partner and her kids. And all I can think about is like, yes, I would love to have that. Let me get that box in our house. That'll help so much.
Oh yeah, that's true. It'd be a good thing to have. Well, I just love that. Like, okay, so you have this box. It sits actually at home, it sits on my counter. I wasn't thinking about like throwing a light bulb in it or because if we need like a new light bulb or if we're out of a spice, throwing like the old container of the spice in there. But I get it now. Like it makes sense. The way that it is laid out for you, you can throw anything you want into the box and then you go through and organize it on Sunday. So I just love that idea.
And also the procrastinator. I can't talk.
Procrastination?
The procrastinator in me would love to just be like, Sunday is the day where all the tedious work is done. Because, when you're in that mindset of doing the tedious work like that, it's better when you do it all at the same time, kind of like what she was mentioning. I mean, at least that's the way my brain works. Like, I need a whole day to sit down and like go through the bills and go through the all the mail that we've gotten and, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's better to do that all at once instead of, trying to pick it off here or there throughout the week. And I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things I loved, was her talking about being a genie, like poof, your wish is granted or whatever throughout the week. And I do that a lot too. So it is a lot of, oh, hey mom, I need $3 for this, or I need this school supply, or I need whatever it is. And I do feel like all I'm doing is granting wishes and I'm not actually thinking about, okay, how much am I spending on X, Y, and Z that the kids are needing? And how much of my time am I spending on the things throughout the week versus just, again, putting it in the basket, spending that time that you already have to do anyway, but just condensing it into one session and then just taking care of everything all at once. That makes sense to me. The other thing that I loved was hearing Lisa's story from, 15 years ago or whatever. Yeah, it was 2012 where she was just like, I've got to change my life. I'm reactionary to everything. That's all I do is react, and I don't want to react anymore. And this idea of just like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my business. And she has grown it into this massive company. And it just came out of this idea, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, if you're a genie, Jessie, can I ask you for just one wish?
Sure. Go
Can
ahead.
I get a Sunday box? Can I get a Sunday box? Whoa. Wow, that was fast. Thank you so much, Jessie.
Again, I'm a genie. I'm a grant wisher here.
Sunday box. Or Sunday basket. Oop.
Hey, guess what? You made it to the end of the podcast. That's awesome. And you know what you get for that? You get more content. Check out this content from the Resolve team, all about Rediscover Your Story podcast content right here. You click on it, you might get a treat. Find out. Steve, make it stop.